So good afternoon. We will start our last morning session in a few seconds, right after I have turned my mobile phone off. Because this is something about technology we should know. We have altogether 5 presentations, or at least 4. And we have gathered all around the world. 2 of us are from Finland, but then we have a presentation from China, and 2 of us are from United States. So we have a very international panel today. And we will start with Professor Xie from Beijing Conservatory. Please, Professor Xie.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm Jiaxing here from China Conservatory. My topic is from teaching to learning. E-learning has changed the focus of music education, the digital music education trend in mainland China. I have just only 15 minutes. Unfortunately, my English is not so good, so I try to read quickly. Since the 1990s, the digital wave has brought tremendous change to music education, not only in the world at large, but also in mainland China in particular. Numerous music and music education websites have been spring up. Students who wish to could get all kinds of music they need, but have we carefully consider what kind of impact on music education this previously non-existent situation would bring. Can we say that the change is not only on one of technical means, but also of educational perspectives and paradigms? Of course, as you know, e-learning, simply said, could be online study or new work study, but if extends further, it should be include multimedia study, use of database, long-distance study, and long-distance interaction. In this short report, we won't talk too much about definition, but rather focus on the profound change brought to music education by this new study style and the deep change happening between teachers and students, as well as in the teaching and learning caused by the technological revolution. I used to say that information has made society into an ocean of music. Our music classroom is more like an isolated island. You can see this picture, music classroom. Yeah. This question is a more urgent one for Chinese music teachers. The reason are not only because there are 200 million primary school, middle school, and higher education students, and more than 200,000 music teachers. We can see this music education in mainland China, a huge system. But also because the music class cannot suit the student needs. Many students complain that they love music, but they hate music class. And I also used to say that the 21st century is the century that only the outstanding teacher could survive. The online courses given by many outstanding teachers, of course, not only music teachers, attract a larger number of students. For example, in recent years, the online courses from Harvard and Yale are very popular in mainland China. But I don't think this is the heart of the matter. This is just offering the possibility for students to choose good courses that are still taught in the traditional way. It seems to me that the fundamental change brought by e-learning that people take for granted are, first, huge inexhaustive musical information resources and virtually unlimited access. The second, the electronic media has brought the convenience of imitation learning and flexible human-machine dialogue. No time to show the music. Yeah. So the third, new styles of music and new musical expression. And the fourth, long-distance interactive lessons and interactive music making. These changes had led to the award position in which music teachers find themselves, just like this picture. First, the monopoly position of music teachers as information resources has been completely lost. A student is no longer an empty vessel before entering the classroom, but a poverty owner or even a rich person. They have their own musical interest, their own musical idols, and even their own aesthetic tastes. So the question is, if the music teacher is not simply a musical resources private provider, what role should the music teachers then play? The second is multimedia allows students to have a more perfect imitation of objects, from audio to video. The traditional mode of learning music through score has been completely broken. The question is, what can music teachers do? What approach should they take? The third, new music making styles, including music video and composition with soundwaves, are young people's strengths. The question is the music teacher out there? The fourth, interactive distance courses and interactive music making are greatly expanding the class concept. The word is fact, said by Thomas Bremen, is not just a business concept, but also a concept of classroom teaching. For music learning, geographical space is no longer a problem. Language, culture are all there is to consider. For teachers, this is also a new topic. And the question is, what are the advantages for local teachers? Superficially, it is probably an old question whether education should be teacher or student-centered. But in fact, as I said before, the problem caused by the media revolution that music teachers are encountering are much deeper than this. Therefore, the paper proposed the following solution for the problems. To answer the first question, one possible answer is the transformation of the teacher characteristic roles from a provider to a guider. In mainland China, many music teachers have realized the change. They observe that although society has been supplying the multitudes with a large amount of music, it does nothing to inform them how to handle music. Therefore, music teachers are not only to make music, but also to guide students to incorporate music into their daily life. The role of music teachers should be transformed from a provider of music resources to an instructor of music lives. To answer the second question, one possible answer is music teaching should be closer to the essence of music. In fact, in the electronic age, take us back to the essence of music learning. I summarize the kind of study as listening, humming, singing, and practicing. In the paper media age, in an atmosphere of European Central music culture, keyboard-based score learning is taken as the primary path to learning music, but it is actually against the law of music learning. Music learning must start for listening. Scores are the complement. Even a complex piece can also start from listening. Chinese people pay attention to the term of music. Listening to an excerpt of the following dialogue of Peking opera, score can capture nothing, but one can learn it through the listening.
我看四下大鼓，何时要起我不免将玉镯了落一只，他若将此镯收下，这婚姻就有八九了。
Just joking. Yeah. To answer the third question, one possible answer is the music teacher should be a learner. In the media age, music teachers should not only work hard on learning media technology, but also on collecting database resources. To answer the four questions, one possible answer is work hard on finding local resources and become the inheritors of their own culture. Every culture has its own excellent tradition, and there are valuable resources in one's own culture. Working hard on finding resources will lead to more ability to capital to communicate with other nationalities, just as a man won't realize he is a man if he doesn't make friends with women. And so one will never know the value of one's own culture without communicating with foreign culture. Local knowledge and international perspective are the best way to open our horizons. Since 2009, the China Conservatory has been holding the annual Beijing Traditional Music Festival, which is committed to promoting the organization and rehabilitation of valuable traditional music. This is an international festival. We can see this picture, and we can show a film about 2010 last year. The festival combined with the 29th Izmir World Conference. See this. I have no time. Yeah. At the same time, we are also discussing long-distance interactive performing with the other countries. This May, I visited New York University and discussed with Professor John Gilbert and David Elliott, and discussed with the professional about the projects such as impact, interactive multimedia, performing arts, cooperative technology, and other interactive technology-based cooperations. I hope to realize an interactive performance in a future Beijing Traditional Music Festival and welcome friends to Beijing. Yeah. From teaching to learning, my educational aim is to foster the following abilities: reading, listening, speaking, presenting, writing, and doing. My teaching paradigm is to establish a self-organized course. My question is how to improve student abilities through self-organized courses. Here, I want to give an example of informal music learning. One of my students, a young composer, still does not read scores, but depends completely on electronic media and listening for learning. Just a short film. This is a song on.
青春灿烂的绽放，让我们伸出双手来传递爱，用青春不懈的诗篇，让我们散发无限的热情。
青春是自由的，带着最美的微笑，聆听世界声音。我们用心挥动梦想的翅膀，在音乐中交汇爱的力量。
No time. Finally, I want to say the learning as a key focus of music education not only belongs to students but also to teachers. The change is not just the result of the technology revolution, but also belongs to the change of society revolution. The content of musical and social change should be profound. If one just looked at the past half century of Chinese music life, one can feel deep meaning of the change. We can see a little about cultural revolution. Time.
1966年8月18日，毛泽东在天安门接见了首都红卫兵和来自全国各地的师生。到11月下旬，毛泽东先后8次接见了1300万红卫兵。红卫兵运动风起云涌，遍及全国，文化大革命的狂风铺天盖地席卷而来。
So maybe teachers should learn more from the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Xie, from your wise words, and there were also good reference for what we are going to see next. Do you one question maybe, if you want to place here or later? Yeah, one question. Okay.
I just want to point out at the beginning of the presentation, the problems you were talking about are not just limited to your culture. I'm talking referring, of course, to the presentation yesterday, and also presented where the issue of students not enjoying the music class. Okay, the difference between who the students are and their backgrounds and what's being presented in the name of music teaching in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we move forward. Please welcome to this panel called Ever-Evolving Music Education, Information and Communication Technologies Engaging Music Educators. There's a very long name for this conference or panel. The technology for us, it's going throughout the world right now, and it will serve us the fundamental engine of the worldwide industry. Furthermore, it is assimilated by young learners, and it's available wherever you are. And the technology in music education, it can be local, like in this picture. There is a piano classroom. It's from my school in Tampere, where a piano teacher and her student there are playing in a piano laboratory, and they can record their playing to the videos. They can follow from 4 different cameras from different angles. As you can see, there is also one camera above the young pianist, and after the lesson they can follow those recordings. Or another possibility, as was told in the previous talk, is also music distance learning. We will also hear some notes about that later today in this panel. Well, as Professor Xie pointed out, we think that we are some kind of immigrants now in the context of using technology. Our users, they want to be in instant connection all the time. Always, even we as old timers with music technology, we can't know everything what is happening, and so that is also Professor Xie's point. We have to be changed to be as learners, and normally we are several clicks behind our students anyway. This session is going to be also discussive. You should ask questions from us. I have had an honor to ask here several presentations. For instance, next one, Christianne Orto has been running a world-famous distance learning class since 15 years. Rees has done his educational job in several universities in music distance learning area, and from Finland, Otto Romanowski is a pioneer of music education technology, or technology in music education, as you wish. So here are our presenters. Professor Xie, you already have heard, Miss Christianne Orto, Dr. Rees, and Otto Romanowski, and my name is Matti Ruippo. I'm coming from Tampere, Finland. And Professor Xie has already made his presentation. Christianne Orto will show the ways they are doing things in Manhattan. Professor Rees will show different kind of perspective to how to use live interactive video in music education. And finally, also we will take a look to those mobile devices we have in use. We'll continue with Christianne. Please welcome. There and there, and yep. And
Great. See, I am digital and analog. I am an immigrant. See, I still use both. Great, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christianne Orto from the Manhattan School of Music in New York City, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joining the World Music Forum and my colleagues as well that here on this panel. So I'm going to be speaking about this new field of music distance learning and what it means to Manhattan School of Music. I think you will find this a very practical example, a very real-world example of what is possible and what we're doing. So this will not necessarily be particularly technological, believe it or not, but I hope you will still find many interesting aspects about it. As mentioned, I come to you from Manhattan School. We are in New York City. We are an urban campus, very compact. We have over 900 students. They come from 37 countries, and they come worldwide to study classical and jazz music in the performing tradition. They as well, I would say, it was 40% international, 60% American. We offer bachelor, master, and doctoral degrees in performance. As well, we have a very vibrant and energetic pre-college division, children ages 5 to 18, and they come all day on Saturdays as well. So a very lively community sitting on the edge of Harlem in New York City, a very diverse and dynamic place to be. So you may be wondering, why music distance learning for Manhattan School of Music? So each year, I'll give you an example, each year about 3,000 students will come to audition. And from that, we will take about 10%. So we do not lack for students wanting to study, have advanced study in music. This is not our problem. We in fact have many coming through the doors. But then again, at the same time, we have this disconnect in that fewer and fewer people are buying tickets for the concert halls. And as we say, the graying or our listening audience is getting older. Or people are just not interested. Young people are not listening to classical or jazz music. So the question is, well, what do we do? We have a certain responsibility as educators. We are educating a workforce, if you will. We are educating artists, but for what? What will it look like for them? So we, as educators, have to address this issue and look to ways to making sure that those concert halls and those venues and those outlets and the ways of listening and engaging in music are relevant in today's world. So I will speak to you about all the reasons why we do this, but you know, it's interesting. I was just reflecting specifically on one of the reasons, which is that, as I said, building new audiences, and I feel strongly that we absolutely have to reach the young. So one big strand of our music distance learning program is reaching into the classrooms, directly into the classrooms, so that we can bring music content, music interaction, music programs to students in their environment, so that we demystify this world and we make it accessible and we expose them and we engage them in music. And I'm here to tell you the good news, which is working with classrooms, especially around the United States, students are interested in this music. They are absolutely interested in what we're seeing in classical and jazz and world music. It is simply a question of getting right to their door, into their classroom. We have this issue even in New York. Students live in the outer boroughs of Manhattan. They don't come to New York City as we define it, Manhattan. So we have to reach even locally, and we have to reach globally. So I also want to make the point, we are not looking to in any way take away or supplant the music teacher in the local community. In fact, we want to support the music teacher. So think of this. We see in public education, especially arts education, public funds getting cut for the musical arts. Music is always the last on the line. We need math and science. So not as much actual classroom time in music. But at the same time, schools are buying new technology. They're buying instructional and collaboration technologies. So This means we have an opportunity as educators to say, okay, I'm going to take that, leverage that investment that these local schools have made and bring the music back into the schools, okay? So let's be smart and let's take advantage of that opportunity. So this is basically our model, and I wanted to reflect on that for you. So some other reasons just to share with you, as I mentioned earlier, we reach out to the local community. That at our very roots, Manhattan School was a community music school. We worked just with our own population, but over these 90 years that we have been in existence, now we reach out to the global community. It's a natural extension of who we are. So as mentioned, reaching new audiences or untapped audience is key. Also, new performance opportunities for our students and for our teachers. And we want to have a system whereby we do two things. We export what's going on in New York City. We send out to the world what's happening at Manhattan School in New York, but we also want to bring in resources. So it's a two-way street, and it's very important. I also would say that learning is global, as the professor has stated earlier, and that we need to access the best. And I want to, this is an interesting point, because we have to think, how are we supporting the teacher in this change that they are having, this new role? How do we support them so that they can make this transition? This is very, very important. And also, especially in the classical tradition of music, we're very proud about, oh, I studied with so-and-so who studied with so-and-so who studied with so-and-so, and then you get to Beethoven. So you have this great pride in the lineage of who it is. We trace it with great reverence. But now with technology, learning is global and students have access to so many influences. So the question is, this is a great challenge for us as educators and as conservatories, conserving the past. So we have to look at that, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts on this changing paradigm. So just briefly, for the genesis of the program, we're very proud. We started our music distance learning program 15 years ago. And it was because of Maestro Pinka Zuckerman, the renowned violinist, violist, and conductor, that we explored this. So Mr. Zuckerman is on our faculty. He has a string program at Manhattan School. But the reality was he was at the school once or twice a year when he's performing in New York. So on paper you say, yes, I study, my biography, I study with Mr. Zuckerman, but the reality is you didn't see him that much, or some years better than others. So he is the pioneer, because he said to our then president, Marta Casals-Isteman, hey, let's look at this technology, because maybe this is a way for us to augment the number of lessons I can give every year. So a two-way street, accommodate a touring schedule and give greater access to the students. And as I pointed out to my colleagues earlier this week, in this picture, Mr. Zuckerman is teaching on one screen, and on the other is a young man from Uzbekistan. He's 6 years at Manhattan School. I would say 50% of his lessons were through video conference. He is now playing with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. So pedagogically, we find that there is something is happening that shows that there is an effective learning model in this new virtual space. So just one example of the many students that he has and continue to now be part of our cultural and musical landscape. Okay, our scope, and please visit our website. This is our distance learning website. You can see our content that we export, and we export to K-12, as I mentioned, and we export to higher education as well. We'll go into some of the other areas that we send it out to. So again, like I said, import and export. And we've reached now 34 of the 50 states, and we will not stop until we hit all 50. And we've worked with 19 foreign countries. I'm delighted to know some Australian colleagues are here, and we've worked in mainland China as well. It's very exciting to now have students from around the world. And we're reaching about an additional 2,500 students in addition to the ones that are on our campus. And it's been fascinating to see which faculty are most attracted to the technology. And I list here some of the programs that have been early adopters and continuing to be adopters and involved. So As I said, these are the various organizations that we work with. I added here, we work with libraries, public libraries. We connect to hospitals, children's hospitals, community centers, senior centers, bringing them live music. So that gets to my next point. Our core philosophy, the professor also pointed out the many different types of e-learning that are out there. We focus on synchronous or live interactive audiovisual communication. We want to keep the live in live performance. That is very important to us. And we want to keep the paradigm of the teacher and the student together in real time. So our values connect, interact, listen, and learn. And as often people say to me, well, does this mean we won't see each other? And that's not the case. We still value being together. This is the best. We're together. We chose to be here. But this just expands the ways in which we can communicate. It's new ways and additional ways. And as I said, the learning is global, access the best, and, oh, I had the same alarm this morning. I know that sound. And I think one of my big areas that I feel extremely strongly about is this idea that the virtual environment is of a very high quality. And to that end, I certainly want to say that I want to make sure we make a distinction between social media tools and pedagogy tools. So in other words, there's Skype, and Skype is wonderful. Skype is not for advanced training in music. It simply does not have the technological infrastructure to support musical training on a high level. So that's another area I think we can go into as a group as well, is are we making sure that our tools support music and music education as we define them and as we want them? And also, as I said, our main strain is synchronous, but we'd like to bring in additional people. This is our streaming page. At any time, you can go to that page and say, what's going on at Manhattan School, and tune in. So there could be a master class going on between, say, United States and Australia, and you can tune in and watch as well. And we now, not only that, we have about 1,000 hours of digital material recorded, and it's on an archive, and it's accessible to our students as well as the public. How much time do I have? I don't want to creep into my colleagues' time. Please tell me.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, very good. Simply, these are some of our programs that we deliver, and another area I'm very excited about is not only do our faculty do programs, our students, whom we call teaching artists, deliver programs, okay? So it's not just in the hands of our faculty, it is in the hands of our student body. So I encourage them, and they create programs, content. Introduction to jazz, what is American music, what is opera? They deliver the programs to the classrooms. And it's been very, very successful. They are my ambassadors. They are the digital natives, and I want them to spread the word. Just some quick examples. People say, well, what do you do? And it is more than master classes in synchronous education. It's all of these various things. Sectionals, preparing mock auditions for great orchestras. Schools will call me up and say, we're getting ready for our choral competition, or we have a concert coming up. Can one of your faculty coach us and help us get ready? This is a prime example. So our faculty member comes to the distance learning studio and will then reach out to that school and provide that coaching, again, supporting the local music teacher, but again, bringing in another perspective to this particular environment. More, again, and you're welcome to my slides as well. These are the ones that we use at Manhattan School. Very practical, very, very practical, and they support the curriculum. And just some pictures to end this all. Not only do we do pedagogy, but we want to, because our students come from 37 countries, we want them to remain in contact with home. They will go home, and we want to make sure that they have their contacts and continue to develop them. So we try to create interactive performing opportunities where they can come back and still connect and perform and let people know what's going on. This is the great American baritone, Thomas Hampson, is on our faculty. And we also stream to mobile devices. So here is Mr. Hampson giving a class locally. It's streamed out to your desktop right here, but you can also watch the class on your iPhone, so for a mobile population as well. So again, the central technologies, synchronous real-time, but adding in lots of other ancillary technologies to expand the number of learners. So again, like I was saying, student teaching artists, our students teaching out to other schools. Also our faculty teaching to other places. Our jazz faculty teaching to other places. And again, as I mentioned, simply, we have a repository of data, video archive. Students can access it. They can annotate it. It has tagging, so they can add comments as well. And that's their resource online. And just a quick commercial, which my colleague said I could do. This conversation does not have to end. Next week, Wednesday and Thursday, you are absolutely welcome to go to this website between 12 and 4 Greenwich Mean Time. It's a virtual conference, which we will also be streaming live. And we have Dr. Rees will be participating, Matti, Ruippo, and other colleagues from around the world talking about this new field. And so we want to create a centralized repository now of colleagues doing this kind of thing. So I thank you. Oh, it's a little dark, but there's my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you. You happen to have right now a special situation to make questions to Christianne. Would you place some questions now or later? Christianne is, how can I, okay, first one.
Can you just repeat, it's on October 5th and 6th, but at what time was that? Because that was very short.
Before Greenwich Mean Time.
Okay, thanks.
So everyone time zones, and absolutely please tune in for as much or as little.
More questions? Okay, we continue with Professor Fred Rees. Please.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending our session today. I'm going to be focusing on the pedagogical side of distance learning. Like Christianne's program, we also do live interactive performance, particularly over Internet 2, which is a very heavy-duty internet highway where we can have, for those of you who know what I mean, uncompressed audio and video for live performance with multiple sites anywhere in the world. But that's not why I'm here to talk about that. That's just one of the things that we do. I would like to talk a little bit more about the pedagogical side. And I'm bringing up a resource not because I think it's the world's best or that you would necessarily have access to it, although I know in American universities it's often available. And the worst part is many of my colleagues don't take advantage of it even when it's there. And it's a product by Adobe called Connect. It used to be called Breeze. But I'm using it primarily to give you some ideas of where we are technologically and what kind of impact on learning has come through this type of resource. So please don't get too caught up with the details of the product. Connect Pro, and I'm just giving you, we're going to pretend that you're joining me in a class here. You would log in, and by the way, you can log in as a guest. If I'm teaching a class on a Tuesday night and you happen to know about it, and you just go to the Breeze site, you'll see and log in, you can literally join the class. And I would like to also emphasize something that Christianne brought up. I philosophically also support live instruction. And when we teach, we're not doing the asynchronous podcasts or pre-recorded stuff that people sort of access when they can. Okay? Hello? Thank you. Okay. We welcome you, but shh. Okay. Anyway, and philosophically, I've held this role for over 18 years. When I was in Iowa, the Iowa Communications Network, which has over 700 classrooms that are uncompressed audio, not uncompressed, full motion video and very good audio, where you could literally teach from classrooms in schools, not just at the university level. to other teachers or students at other sites, okay, across the state. The limits being that the system was statewide only, although I suspect by now they've expanded beyond that. When I came to Indiana University, Purdue University, they had started teaching live over the internet. And so that attracted me there, although initially it was comparatively crude to the sort of resources that something like Connect Pro has. But the idea was that one could see the teacher in real time, the teacher could present materials that students could refer to, and there was a chat room for them to respond. In something like Connect Pro, all classes are recorded. So we not only have the dynamics of the class in real time, but the opportunity to go back and review it. And so the students would be able to log in on the day of the presentation, and they would see a screen that looks something like this. Within this particular product, for example, besides staring at my face, there's also, you can see all the students who, and that'll show up in a couple of other slides on the left, who are in attendance, including the online students if they choose to get on. I mean, on-campus students. So we'll have the on-campus students there, and many of them, they don't have to, but they'll get on because they want to interact with these other people. There's a chat room here, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. These different windows that you see are called pods, and they can be moved around, they can be erased, they can be added as needed during the presentation. Here I am going on, and of course that's always one of the dangers, because that's only part of what's supposed to be going on in a real life lesson. But on the left-hand side is the chat room. And what's happened, I'm presenting something, and by the way, anything that you put up here from PowerPoint or Word or whatever with live links are live links, okay, on the internet. So I can literally pull up anything from a YouTube to any kind of link on the spot that I want to discuss beyond whatever I provided. And what's happening on the left-hand side, you might see there's somebody who's put up a link. I'm talking along about something, and all of a sudden a student will get will say, hey, you know, I think I know of a place where this is being discussed. And so what we begin to have here, which amazed me, is the idea of a second classroom. Okay, there's what I'm doing with what I'm presenting and what people are hearing and so on, and then the students themselves are discussing things. Sometimes it might be that I'm saying something they don't understand, or I've gone through too fast, and they may ask me directly, you know, to repeat or elaborate. But oftentimes the student will jump in and do it for me. All right, and so by having this second classroom going on, it's not distracting to me. I don't have to stop and explain unless obviously that's desirable, and we can proceed with whatever is on the agenda. And this is just another sample here. I hit a link, and this is an online publication, Ethnomusicology. And again, I can literally pull up any of this stuff while I'm talking, and students are responding to what's going on. Students can also join in video conferencing as well. And so if somebody wants, instead of just to do the chat, they can come in this way, or they can just come in by voice. So they can literally interact with us live at any time. Another feature of this particular product is that we can turn over the computer, whether it's my computer or a student out there at the other end of the world's computer, and I can control their desktop. They can control mine. So let's say they will have a musical score. They're going to play it, and they want to get some feedback from me, maybe even some markings, okay? I can see their score, I can make circles, and I can do other things just as if that was on my computer. And they can do the same with mine. This particular student right now, for instance, I've turned over my desktop, and he happens to be making a presentation on Seymour Papert, and he's doing a voiceover with this as well. So even though it's a pre-recorded event at that point, we're seeing and hearing what he has created just as if he was in the classroom. This happens to be a student in our class doing the same kind of presentation, sending out what he's created. And another sample again. Here again, we happen to be discussing an issue on memory, And I have live links here that we can go to immediately, or the students can go to if I don't want to take the time or don't have the time to refer to them. In addition to this, we have another product which, called iStream, and this happens to be an Indiana University tool, which is going parallel with what I'm doing. It's in fact recording in real time with interactivity everything going on in the classroom. It's doing it through 2 Polycom cameras. From the back of the room, for instance, you're seeing a projection of Connect that's on my desktop going out. We really don't need it because a lot of the students will pull it up on their own machines anyway, but I'm just showing this as one way that they can look at it. One of the cameras here is looking at our students, and everybody who's in the class can see and hear what's going on, in addition to what they're seeing and hearing in Connect. Okay, and there's yours truly doing his little bit in the front from the back camera. Another product we use is called On Course, and this is nothing more or less than a classroom management system. How many of you use one? Like Blackboard? How many of you use Blackboard? Okay, it can be a very useful tool because essentially it houses everything we have, the videos we do, tests that are done, assignments. It has its own internal email system, its own internal chat room, its own internal forums, and so it becomes an ongoing repository of the semester's activities, and is becoming, at least in American or North American institutions, increasingly available. And then this just happens to be one of the pages showing the number of students, and I had 33 master's students in this class in that particular semester last year. That was a lot. Okay, finally, what are some of the outcomes that I've discovered over the years, regardless of where I've taught and how I've worked with these things? One of the things is what's called the cohort effect. The students out there feel that tyranny of distance, even though they can participate with us. And what happens is they start talking to each other after class, all right, and sharing information. And so class doesn't stop at the end of the session. They keep it going, all right? And of course, these days with social networks and Facebook and so on, it's not a big deal, and we can all track it as we wish. The second thing is that this virtual second class that I mentioned to you within the class going on in real time. Some interesting outcomes that I was surprised at. The online students tend to outperform their on-campus counterparts in terms of the quality of what they produced. They tended to be on time with what they had to do. And the only thing I could figure is there's a higher motivation being out there and wanting to be connected and getting things done. And most of these people were professionals, so that was another factor too if they were graduate students. But even when I taught on-campus undergraduates in this kind of format, I noticed that the online students always seem to be more on top of everything than what our on-campus students were doing. We also had to attract a lot of non-music, traditional music students into our programs, although they all are literate musicians, and of course part of that's because we're not in the business of churning out artistic performers. They're in music technology. But they will bring a whole batch of skills and knowledge to the classroom that they share. So I might have somebody who's an audio engineer, somebody who's a music business person, somebody who's done a lot of film work and music for film, somebody who does gaming. And it's amazing how that information and knowledge gets filtered and shared in this environment, in a course. And I guess lastly I would mention here, again, that of the 160 or so graduates that we had just in our master's program, 49 of them who were online created much better outcomes, okay, who did not happen to have undergraduate degrees in music than those who did. And I think part of that is because many of these folks were much more equipped and familiar with how to work with technology than their musical counterparts. And so that in a nutshell is what I have to say. I didn't put up my URL for our department, but it's easy for you to remember if you want to write it down. It's music.iupui.edu. And I'm more than welcome to talk to you about any further matters on pedagogy if you are so interested. Thank you.
And you can And if you want, you can start the discussion right now. Do you have some questions for Fred? Meanwhile, Otto is tuning up his systems. So that was another way to go through these distance learning things. Christianne, please.
I have a question for Dr. Rees.
Yes.
What's your screw yourself together?
Fred, sorry about that. So question for you, you spoke about the second classroom phenomena. Does that ever become a distraction to the primary classroom, the first classroom?
Surprisingly, no. And maybe it's because I've been used to doing this for a while, and I will say I think anybody who tries to do this for the first time can be somewhat overwhelmed because there's people out there and you may be pushing buttons to push a film over the internet or music or what have you. But on the other side of it, once you do get used to that process of how to work in that environment, it is not distracting. In fact, it's very helpful. I'm sure as teachers, you're presenting particularly something new, and you don't necessarily know what the students are getting. One of the things with online people is that they are not very patient. All right, they don't sit there and go, well, I didn't get that, so I guess I'm just stuck. They'll jump in and say, I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, and they can be just like in emails. How many of you have gotten emails from people that make you cringe? Okay, it's the same kind of thing. The medium itself sometimes is not very well. The medium is friendly, but we often use it in ways that are quite terse. But the other side of that is if you care about teaching and you want your people to learn and they're not getting whatever you're doing, then you want to pull them in. Okay, and what's amazing is, as often as not, they're adding to the information and knowledge rather than being distracting or pulling you away from what you want to get accomplished. Yes, ma'am.
Next one. No?
Sorry. How old are those children who start with these interactive studies? How old?
Well, in terms of what,
how young?
Okay. In terms of what I was showing you here, this was a graduate program. So you have more mature, focused students. But I've also taught music for film class, which is 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds. And I have witnessed in K-12, not my classes, but others who use the same resource with the students, and the kids just love it because they're on parade here. Okay, the biggest problem there, of course, is to keep their enthusiasm in check. But since they all want to express themselves, as we know today, okay, they love that opportunity to interact, and they'll do it very quickly.
Next.
Thank you for informing us that the access is free. I hope it's very free because I was actually going to ask Christianne if your internet programs were free with no hidden charges and conditions. And when you asked how many people were used to the system, I tried to look to make sure I wasn't the only one not used to it. I didn't see too many hands up. Can all of you who are already familiar design something for the beginners that we can interact with, access for our own use too, especially for Africa? Thank you.
Yes, your point is very well taken, and I think it's important that we have a continuum of complexity from early adoption technology up to maybe more evolved production values. So absolutely, and I should, one of the reasons why I pointed out my website is because we list all the costs for the programs on the internet. So we do not hide anything, and it's one fee. So if you're a classroom and you want to get a program, say on the Afro-Cuban jazz, it will come with a curriculum guide, for instance, and wraparound lessons and a central video conference, and we fit in with national standards in the arts and with other content providers. So usually the programs are around, say, $250, somewhere in there, $300 for a program. But again, that's all on the internet, so nothing hidden. Do you have anything to add about the technology spectrum?
I probably could do it for the rest of the week, but I think we have somebody else who's got a terrific presentation to do next.
Well, one question.
Okay, hi. Just, I want to know in how many language you are making your program?
Well, again, we come from 37 countries, so we're able to accommodate lots of different languages.
Okay.
And we will also sometimes, when we work, for instance, with mainland China, we always have a simultaneous interpreter, not unlike what we have going on here today.
Okay, thank you for your questions. And the final part of our session will be conducted by Mr. Otto Romanowski from Sibelius Academy, Finland. He has been leading the technology in music education courses for over 25 years in Finland, and he will put his mobile device on quite soon. Yes?
Just so you know, we teach in English and Mandarin. We will be starting in the spring a course on music technology for the No. 4 high school in Beijing, and that will be taught by one of our resident lecturers who's also from Beijing.
And
everything else is English-based.
Yes. And in Finland we are teaching in Finnish. Please join. We started a little bit late, so we will continue a little over 1 p.m. Please.
Okay, hello to everybody. I'm Otto Romanowski, the composer, and I'm very grateful to be here that you invited me. We had some fantastic speakers here at the beginning. I have a lot of stress now. Thank you for that. So the thing is, what I'm going to show you, it's this kind of device, and I'm going to tell you what you can do with it as a teacher or as a
Can I have the presentation on my
student. So the main focus of this product is, what I'm going to tell you, is a technology for mobility. And you know, this stuff, they are quite known to the young people. They have in their pockets, lots of them. This doesn't suit into your pocket. It depends what kind of pocket you have, but I think that there is, Armani has already a suite where you can fit this inside. This is called Apple Computer's iPad. But this is a so-called mobile touchpad device, which means that it's a computer inside that. I will tell you a little bit more about it. It's small, it's light, and so on. So if we think about these touchpads, I touch only with my fingers on the surface of the stuff that you see here. So why these are so funny things? Why I like these toys? Well, because they are very light. I have my own portable computer, which is weighing over 3 kilos. It's not portable, it's draggable, actually. And these are quite handy. You can, for example, serve your coffee from this if you like, or something else. You can use it as a spare frisbee if you don't have. And the main point, I think, is that these are quite cheap. What I mean by cheap, well, you can start with the $400, and then you get lots of potential inside the machine. I will show you all. And why I'm also telling they are cheap, that if you have bought this about $400 costing machine, so the softwares, the applications that you are going to buy are usually costing about $1 to $3. The most expensive program I have here costs $8. So it's not so much. Then, for what we can use this? Well, the word media parser means that you can actually look at all kind of media content that you have on the net, on the local stuff, and also locally, I mean that I can have here inside something. I have, for example, in this machine now locally over 7 days of music, because I have all my music inside this machine. So I can always improvise also during the lecture if I'm going to play some records for somebody, and not to run to the library to fetch the CD and notice that it was taken. And then this is a very important machine because this is also a machine that you can produce your own content. I will show some examples of that. And then, which is very important, you can distribute all the things that you are doing. And in this place, I have to tell that there is in England one company which does future research. And they noticed that humankind is divided in 2 ages, and the splitting point is 1995. Now everybody should look at himself or herself, because the people who are born before 1995, there are persons who are fetching, taking something from the internet. When they're waking up in the morning, they are starting Google, and then they are searching something. But the young people who are born after 95, they are not so much searching, they are giving information. They are doing their own videos, music, and giving that to the internet. So that's quite interesting splitting point. So we older one are takers, and our child are givers. It was a little bit vice versa. Then, as I said, this is very handy storage media for all kind of stuff, movies, videos, music, whatever you like, recipes, and so on. It depends on your imagination. And one very specific thing that I will also show you in a longer is that it has very complex and big amount of different kind of sensors. For example, classical piano has only one sensor, but it has 88 of them. They're called keys. You just push them down and are happy. You can't, for example, turn it upside down or shake the piano. It's very heavy. Then at last point is quite interesting opportunity, because in a few months, actually, I think in a few days, one fruit company will release a system that actually I do not have after that save button on all these applications. If I write my document, I don't have to save it, because it flies via internet directly to the secret place in Cupertino, where they have a huge room with lots of computers. So actually all my material is saved somewhere else, and that is called cloud systems or cloud technology. And actually all my music is also stored there, which means that if I break this machine, or this is being stolen from me, when I buy a machine, I have everything again back in my machine. I don't have to save anything. Wow! Save as, you have to forget it. Then about this application I will show you. So I think I will play you music, because I'm a composer, that's my problem. How to use these applications that we can put inside these, they're actually quite cheap. Well, we have 3 kind of ways. These tools that we are using in these machines, they can be so-called additional tools to a normal stuff, that things that we're using. And in that time I'm thinking about the old-fashioned style of notation, score writing, or then hyper instruments. Well, hyper instruments means that maybe it's best to describe, there is a piece by Jean-Claude Rees, which is called A Duet for One Pianist. No, he's not schizophrenic. The idea is that you are playing piano, which is connected to this kind of machine, and this machine responds with the same piano. So you have actually 4 hands, and 2 are from the machines, and you own the 2 rest ones. So that's the hyper instruments. But still, it's the piano which is playing.
Does this replace the grand piano?
Well, actually, it is replacing. It's not replacing, because the final solution is to play that real grand piano. It has some motors inside which actually take the keys down. So it's a normal piano that is played there inside. So if you look above or outside, you don't understand that there's something happening. You just see that there are many keys going down, although you are pushing only one. So it's actually playing the same real instrument. Then it could be also a replacement for traditional tools. And here are the examples, like sequencers. In a longer run, you know that there have been lots of big studios where they have big recording machines and so on. Now everything is here. I will show you. And then synthesizers, and this is a little bit problematic. When you are deciding that your child would like to play piano, you buy a huge wooden thing to your home. It's very heavy, it's very expensive. But the only sound that comes from that instrument is piano. When your child tells, I would like to have this drum sound and electronic guitar sound, you have to buy more instruments. But if you buy this kind of much more cheaper stuff than the grand piano, then you get also the piano and everything else. But naturally there lies the little bit problem. The quality of the sound is naturally not the same as in the original instruments. But we have to remember that if some young student has this kind of instrument, he can test different kind of instruments and he can find the instrument that he likes. And there is no hindrance him to continue to study the real physical instrument afterwards. But he can get to know all the instruments by $400. And then the things that I'm quite interested in are naturally these new instruments and approaches and concepts. And what I mean by that, we can actually via computer programming do a completely new instruments that are not existing yet at all. We can make new sounds which are impossible, and that's because we have this kind of machine. And then we have naturally these distant activities which has been spoken here. I also would like to remind that there are some people who have different kind of disabilities. For example, you cannot control your hand very good. So we can actually make tools that help for those people to play music. I will show some of them later. So the first demo I will show you is this kind of instrument or program or application, you name it, how you can call it. This is actually called a small studio which is sitting inside this machine. It's very good introduction to, for example, 2 to 3 years old persons, but also a little bit older one can use this program. What is this for? Well, it has a lot of ready-made music built in, so you can just drag and drop on the tracks. I will show the music, so you don't actually have to know how to play anything. You just connect different things together. Then also you can play by your own finger if you like, or then you can also sing inside the machine. And the funny thing that is also somehow emphasizes this collaboration, because I can send via email directly from that application my music to my colleagues. They will comment on that by playing something more, or by replacing what I have been playing and sending again back to me. So actually I don't have to write them that on that track, on that place you had those notes that I don't like. Why? I just play inside it. So now we'll give you a small demo of the GarageBand, how it works. So I made in 2 minutes a collection of these funny loops. The blue stuff that you are seeing on the right side, they are actually ready-made loops. So if I push now the play button, so all those loops which are made by professional musicians are going to play back. This seems to be monophonic production. We are missing the right channel, so half the music is away. No problem. Okay, but how then if I would like to play something and I am very young, I cannot play actually the music. So what then I do? Here we have something which a little bit reminds me of a guitar. If I can just tap with my finger, I can. I was tapping just on those letters C, F, and G. And then when I'm a little bit older than 1.5 years, so maybe I can move my fingers a little bit faster, so I can go to the vertical part where there are some strings, and then I can. And naturally, everything that I do, I can record inside that piece that you heard, so I can play it there. Maybe later on, I would like to play solos and so on. But you know, I don't know any notes, and there can be some mistaken notes. So actually, I have here different scales that I can use: klezmer scale, mixolydian, and so on. I've chosen major blues. So now the guitar tablature looks like this, and then, now when I'm touching these strings, they are always correct. And as you see, I can also bend the stuff. And if I like to play along that background music, I just... and so on. I don't bother with that. And naturally, if I'm quite secure, then I can, later on when I'm 4 years old, and Mama told me, that's actually a guitar. So then she released me this view, and now I understand what is guitar. And here I have the strings. But now I naturally have to know where the correct keys are and notes and so on, so I don't use this at all. So we continue. This was GarageBand. Well, when I showed you this music program, so that was $4 actually, this GarageBand. So it's quite expensive in the internet society. This is quite expensive also. I think that this costs about $6. This is a very good movie making software. But the funny thing with this is that when I'm making the movies, how I make them, I don't have to buy a camera because there is inside camera here. I just put that here, and actually there is a hole where is the camera lens. I can take my movies with this tool, and I can then mix them with this tool. I can share them with my friends directly from the software. There is a command, no save command as you remember. There is export command or share. And then I can actually bring that to my GarageBand file, and actually I can compose to that just ready-made movie. I have to say it's very motivating for the students to compose pieces to their own movies. I believe so. Then what other funny tools there are? You know, the GSM mobile connections, they are quite expensive. But if you are on a free, this kind of Wi-Fi network in the city, there are lots of free networks around. We have here, for example. If there are two people with same kind of device on that free network, they can actually communicate with each other. They can call each other without paying any money to any company which is taking. So it's quite cheap for my state. And then actually I will show some specific demos here from the other programs. And I start with this kind of program. This also shows you a little bit about these interfaces. Here I have strings that when I push my finger on the bottom part, could we have volume a little bit louder? I try to put it inside. Now I have maximum, yes. So when I push my finger here downstairs, I get silent voice, and when I lift my finger up, so I have the velocity. If I wave my finger on the string, I get a vibrato like the violinist is getting. So to play this instrument is actually and so on. I have a soloist gig afterwards, so don't show you more about that. So this is a new kind of instrument, and actually I don't have to teach to any of my students what are the black and white tangents. Please just touch here, and naturally there are all the possibilities to do with the different kind of sounds. It has a fantastic synthesizer built in. There are lots of visuals. I've taken them off now, and so on. So this is one little bit new way of showing something. Later on I can tell you the names of these softwares. And then we have this kind of equipment. And again, you don't see what I'm doing, but because I can't show my finger moving there. But actually, this is a guitar solo sound. And what can I do? I just push those bulks. The funny thing that because guitarists they have their own glissando and that kind of stuff, so when I'm now pushing one key down, I can make vibrato by shaking, like they are doing also, you know. It looks very beautiful. And also they have the pitch bend, and that's very difficult to do with a keyboard, I can say you. So actually the pitch bend goes so that when I'm bending the tool, because this has the gyroscopic stuff and so on. So by this I would like to show you that because we have those all sensors inside the machine, so it's the creative of the people who are doing the application that we can actually imitate the articulation ways of different instruments, which is actually impossible with the normal keyboard equipped synthesizer. You just put the modulation wheel, which is quite stupid actually. So this was this. And then there are also fantastic instruments. This is a very famous synthesizer which is not anymore built. So actually Korg doesn't build it anymore because actually they made it as a software available on this machine. So I have fantastic old way retro style synthesizer. I'll have the fantastic buttons I have there I have a mixer and so on. And then I naturally can play this, or then I can connect my MIDI keyboard directly to these instruments. So I can connect my own MIDI stuff here. And also I can send naturally the information back to my own stuff that I'm playing. And for example, this is a piece that somebody has made with this synthesizer. So it's only this machine is now playing. And you see later on that will change to different pattern now in this. So you can pre-program different kind of musical gestures, and later on you tell which you have to trigger at what time, and then you have a bigger concept of the piece. We do not continue with that. That's always that they have this stop button here. It's fantastic, yeah. And then if we think about the traditional way of doing music, so here we have notation, as you see, and it's always this. Yeah, it doesn't have any lock on this, so it falls away. Let's see if I can show it. Aha! Now I understand that it's forbidden to show this music on a public because they have actually made this kind of stuff. But later on, if somebody will see, I will show how to turn pages here, and actually can you get old camera here, so teacher can be as a camera person here that can invite you and you can play along that. Okay, we go. And the last example I would like to show is actually, we have here a Finnish singer here, Turkka Manninen. I would like to invite you here, and let's see if this, let's see if it works. Yeah, it's probably because it's wired. Yep. Actually, this is a very old program. I think that it is not good made for this. Yeah, let's see if it goes. Actually, this is not running in external display. These are quite old softwares, which means that they are made for the older version of this machine, so they have not accepted actually the output function of the stuff. So actually, I can't use you now, but I use you later on. So thanks for being here. Oh, now you see. Yeah, that was easy. But you are not paid for that. So this is actually the page turning software that, for example, when I move my finger, you can see that the page turns, because they've noticed that the musicians are very, very conservative. They are hating the thing that is just blinking in front of their eyes. They would like to see, oh, is there something heavy coming? Yeah, there's heavy coming, and then again back. And you can also go backwards. And then naturally, if I like, I can show me on the camera. So now I'm here. Hello. And that sound. But these are actually, as I told you, very simple tools that one can use, and they are not so expensive. So as a last thing that I will just show you, so mobile tablet that I'm tapping here all time is a personal communication and production tool, we have to remember, and it's always naturally portable. And then it's a data library and sharing device, wow. And it has new user face for interaction and creation, and the maybe most important for you all, it's a very fantastic portable learning center. And because nowadays I'm tapping so much, I would say that the thing is that I would like to tap to the future. Not back, but tap to the future. So thank you, I'm available. Please ask the questions.
Please, some questions to Otto. Do you have? Everyone is looking for lunch break.
A little bit criticism.
Okay.
While I was thinking of it, a couple of things. Of course, if you have the iPad 2, you have a camera going out as well as toward you. So you don't have to sit and try to fiddle with it in order to position it. You can see what you're aiming at. I forgot to mention to you, if you have a fairly recent iMac or Mac Pro, I'd say of the last year or two, with at least Snow Leopard or higher operating system, it has what's called Apple Share, which means what you saw me describe with this more sophisticated Connect Pro, you can share with others, and others can share with you their desktops in the same fashion. So there's not additional cost. You don't need this particular type of application for that purpose. It's simpler. And the other thing, for those of you who are looking for low-cost ways to get your programs going with technology, and I think you've given a good example of this, Otto, there are many programs that you can download onto your iPad, including your own portable recording studio. Okay, so it's for very little money. So it's another way of doing this to get things going, and I guarantee you your students will be engaged. So excuse me for horning in on this side, but I thought these were a couple of things that were useful.
Thank you, audience.